Welcome to Film Recap Zone. Today we are going to explain Iron Man 2, released in 2010, and with a lot more pressure from the Marvel studio, everyone eagerly returned to see what would come next for Marvel's rising star, Iron Man. The story opens in Russia, where Ivan Vanko watches his father take his final breath. Overcome with fury, Ivan has been keeping track of Tony Stark's career, and it turns out that Tony isn't the only brilliant mind in the world. Ivan, motivated by a grudge, manages to do what few have. He builds his own working arc reactor. But this man has vengeance in mind. Meanwhile, Tony Stark is living the high life, soaring through the skies in his latest suit, the Mark IV. He lands at the Stark Expo with a fireworks show, making a grand entrance. His ego is on full display as he strikes a pose, revealing his sleek suit beneath the armor. He's a performer as much as a superhero, playing to the adoring crowd. However, behind the scenes, things aren't as glamorous. Tony is forced to check his blood toxicity levels, as the device keeping him alive is slowly poisoning him. We follow his perspective as his head of security, Happy Hogan, who also happens to be the film's director, guides him through a buzzing crowd. A quick shout out to Stan Lee, and Tony hops into his sleek sports car, only to be served with a subpoena. The US government, represented by Senator Stern, wants Tony to hand over the Iron Man suit, but Tony's still in full playboy mode, brushing off the serious nature of the request. Enter Justin Hammer, head of Hammer Industries and Tony's less competent rival, who's equally interested in Stark's technology. Rhodey is also called to testify, who isn't thrilled with the situation. Meanwhile, other nations have been working to create their own Iron Man suits, but their attempts are laughable at best. North Korea's model is a disaster, and Iran's version crashes and burns. Hammer has also been working on knockoffs, but his attempts have ended in disaster, leaving pilots injured. Tony refuses to hand over his technology, insisting that he has successfully privatized world peace. But while Tony is making jokes, Ivan Vanko has been hard at work. He's finished constructing his dangerous version of the arc reactor, one that includes electrified whips. Armed with forged documents, he secures a passport and tickets to Monaco, setting his sights on Tony. Back home, Tony's dealing with his problems. His arc reactor is not only powering his suit, but it's also poisoning him due to the palladium core. Time is running out, but Tony continues to live recklessly. Alongside Jarvis and his personal AI system, Tony is still trying to enjoy his bachelor lifestyle. Meanwhile, Tony's body is rapidly deteriorating due to the palladium core in his arc reactor, which keeps him alive but is also slowly poisoning him. With time running out and no alternatives in sight, Tony is desperate. On top of that, Pepper Potts is still juggling Tony's outrageous billionaire lifestyle and his latest vanity project, the Stark Expo. Tired of dealing with the demands of others, Tony makes a bold decision to appoint Pepper as the new CEO of Stark Industries. Although she's shocked, it's been clear all along that Pepper has been the glue holding everything together. Pepper gets a new legal secretary, a woman who quickly catches Tony's eye. But Pepper wastes no time reminding him of the costly consequences of sexual harassment lawsuits. The new hire, however, has an impressive skill set and can handle herself. Next up, it's the glamorous Grand Prix in Monaco, and Tony surprises Pepper with a full team of staff for the event. Justin Hammer is also present, flaunting his wealth, though without Tony's usual flair. Hammer's military contracts were terminated after Tony exposed his inferior knockoff combat suits at the Senate hearing, but Hammer isn't deterred. He's got big plans for his show at the Expo. While everyone expects Tony to sit back and enjoy the race, he shocks them by entering as a competitor himself, driving with the skill of a seasoned professional. But then chaos erupts. Ivan Vanko steps onto the track equipped with a modified arc reactor and electrified whips and begins tearing through cars with deadly precision. The crowd watches in horror as Pepper and Happy rush to the track to help Tony, whose race car has been sliced in half. Ivan's complete disregard for the destruction around him is terrifying as vehicles explode, but Tony manages to narrowly dodge each whiplash. Happy plowing into Vanko with the car multiple times, but Ivan keeps coming. Growing frustrated, Tony scrambles to retrieve his Mach 5 portable armor from a panicked Pepper. The suitcase transforms into a streamlined suit with thinner armor and limited flight capabilities, a life-saving tool in this dire moment. Although Ivan's electrified whips cut through the lighter plates, Tony can trap Ivan's attack and disable his reactor, finally stopping the assault. Ivan, despite being beaten, remains unfazed. Hammer, meanwhile, is thrilled at the idea of using this technology for his gain. While the authorities scramble to identify Vanko, Tony demands a conversation with the man who recreated his arc reactor technology and used it for a public attack rather than profiting from it. When they finally meet, Ivan reveals his grudge. Tony's father, Howard Stark, had stolen credit for the arc reactor design from Ivan's father, Ivan Vanko. Ivan calls Tony the son of a family of thieves and butchers, making it clear that his vendetta is personal. Tony, left with more questions than answers, knows he's in deep trouble. Ivan is sent to prison, but before he goes, he taunts Tony, letting him know that the palladium in his arc reactor is poisoning him. The Senate is trying to use this whole debacle as leverage to bring Tony down, and Pepper senses Tony is hiding something. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, a mysterious benefactor orchestrates Ivan's prison escape, swapping his body with another prisoner's to cause a distraction. Ivan is smuggled out during the chaos and flown to a private hangar, where he meets Justin Hammer. Hammer is excited but doesn't fully grasp the danger Ivan represents. While Ivan once tried to kill Tony, Hammer suggests they work together to destroy Stark's legacy instead. Ivan, though, already sees Hammer for what he is, an opportunist who is out of his depth. As Ivan and Hammer team up, Pepper and Tony's new secretary are trying to control the media fallout from the Monaco attack. Rhodey visits Tony, who has uncovered that Ivan Vanko, Ivan's father, was a Soviet scientist turned double agent, imprisoned for selling plutonium on the black market. With this revelation, Rhodey realizes the stakes are higher than ever. Now that unstable people like Ivan are playing with dangerous tech, Rhodey knows he can't stop the military from eventually seizing Tony's suits. Hammer shows Ivan his poorly made prototypes, and Ivan immediately starts cracking the software, preparing to take over. Hammer wants to surpass Stark and become the top name in tech, and Ivan seems more than willing to help, at least on the surface. Meanwhile, Tony, feeling his time running out, decides to throw a wild birthday party, getting heavily drunk. Despite warnings from those closest to him, Tony indulges in self-destructive behavior, and the situation spirals out of control. Rhodey steps in, grabs the Mark II suit from Tony's basement and shuts down the party. What follows is a brutal showdown between the two friends, each wearing Iron Man suits. They tear the place apart, with Tony's recklessness pushing the fight to dangerous extremes. Beam to beam, the brawl turns ugly, and a fed-up Rhodey flies off with the Mark II suit, leaving Tony alone with his destructive tendencies. The Air Force, however, is thrilled to have its own Iron Man tech in their hands. Hungover and in a dark place, Tony is approached by Nick Fury, who takes him out for donuts. Fury drops the bombshell that Tony's new secretary is Natasha Romanoff, a covert S.H.I.E.L.D. agent planted to keep an eye on him. Natasha Romanoff, the undercover S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, is assigned to keep an eye on Tony while he goes through his breakdown. Turns out, Tony hadn't activated all the security protocols on Rhodey's suit, meaning he essentially allowed his friend to take it. While S.H.I.E.L.D. helps alleviate palladium poisoning, it's only a temporary solution. Tony has tried every known element to replace his reactor core, but Fury hints that he's missing something critical. Meanwhile, Hammer tries to appease Ivan by bringing him a replacement bird from Russia, but Ivan isn't having it. He's converted all of Hammer's suits into unpiloted drones, and Hammer is forced to go along with the plan unless he can find another option in time for the expo. The Air Force, now in possession of the Mark II suit, begins weaponizing it into what will be called War Machine, packing it with heavy firepower to keep the Senate happy. Fury reveals to Tony that his father, Howard Stark, envisioned the arc reactor as just the beginning of something far more advanced. While Ivan Vanko's father, Anton, had stolen the reactor plans for personal gain, Howard had designed it as a piece of a larger puzzle. Fury, who knew Howard through S.H.I.E.L.D., insists Tony unlock the secrets his father left behind. So, Tony goes through his father's old materials, remembering how Howard had been distant from him as a child. But in his old recordings, Tony discovers a hidden message. Howard left clues for his grown-up son, revealing that the Expo model holds the key to the future. In a heartfelt message, Howard encourages Tony, even across time. With Pepper swamped running the company and having little time to deal with him, Tony dives into his father's notes. He soon realizes the Expo model wasn't just a design. It's a blueprint for a new element. Back at home, Tony reconstructs the Expo model in digital form, and, sure enough, it starts to resemble an atom. Howard had been proposing a whole new element. So, Tony builds a prismatic accelerator in his workshop, as one does, and despite cutting his house's foundations in half, he successfully creates a brand new reactor core. With no time to waste, Tony powers it up, feeling better than ever just in time for Hammer's big day. At the Stark Expo, Hammer's grand entrance is nowhere near as impressive as Tony's, but the Hammer drones, now fully weaponized, still look menacing. Rhodey, now fitted with the War Machine suit, takes center stage as Hammer proudly shows off his military tech. However, things are about to take a serious turn as Ivan isn't done yet. Under house arrest but far from powerless, Ivan makes a call to Tony, taunting him and letting him know he's alive and ready to ruin Tony's day. The Hammer-modified War Machine suit is now in play, but Tony isn't wasting any time. He flies in with his new Mark 6 reactor suit, interrupting Hammer's show. He warns Rhodey that Hammer's been working with Vanko in secret and that everyone is in danger, but it's too late. Vanko remotely hijacks Rhodey's suit, locking it onto Iron Man and unleashing gunfire before giving chase. Now Rhodey's fighting against his will, along with a fleet of Air Force drones. Jarvis can't hack into the War Machine remotely, leaving Tony to dodge an onslaught of attacks. Hammer, realizing he's been locked out of his systems, gives up Ivan's location to Agent Natasha after some persuasion. Natasha and Happy head out to shut Vanko down. Meanwhile, Navy drones are opening fire on civilians, and Army drones are targeting Iron Man. Vanko cranks up the tactical pressure, but Tony still keeps an eye on the bystanders while narrowly avoiding destruction. He can outfly most of the drones, but War Machine is fully armed and loaded with some serious firepower. Natasha and Happy infiltrate Hammer's base, and Natasha's special training shines as she takes down guards effortlessly, with some epic scissor moves in the process. Happy helps too, well, tries to. However, by the time they arrive, Ivan has already made his escape. Back on the field, Tony pulls off a high-speed maneuver, outpacing most of the drones. Rhodey tackles him into a Japanese garden for a breather, and it's almost the end for Stark as he faces off against point-blank gunfire. But Natasha reboots Rhodey's suit just in time, and she's relieved to find that Tony is no longer dying from palladium poisoning thanks to his new reactor. Pepper, on the other hand, isn't thrilled to learn Tony's been keeping secrets. With Rhodey back in control of War Machine, the two buddies finally reconcile. But before they can celebrate, they spend too long bickering and end up in the kill zone for the showdown. What follows is an all-out brawl of destruction. Tony's advanced suit tears through drones, while Rhodey unleashes a storm of gunfire, shredding enemies left and right. Tony finishes it off with an epic one-time use laser trick, obliterating the last of the drones. Pepper oversees the final evacuation, making sure everyone is safe, while Hammer gets arrested. But it's not over. Vanko swoops in with his upgraded Whiplash suit. Rhodey tries to hit him with a bunker missile, but, as expected, it's Hammer tech, which means it's junk. Vanko's suit is designed specifically to combat Iron Man, and he proves it by slicing through Rhodey's weapons and tossing both of them around with his energy whips. Just as things seem dire, Tony and Rhodey remember the power of friendship from their birthday party brawl and fire a combined blast that finally takes Vanko down. But he's rigged the suit and every drone to explode. In full-on hero mode, Tony speeds off in a last-second dash to save Pepper, swooping her out of danger just before everything goes up in flames. Pepper, stressed beyond belief, tries to quit, but Tony won't hear it. Finally, they share their long-awaited rooftop kiss. Meanwhile, Rhodes keeps the War Machine suit, and Tony gets a debrief from Fury. While he's not quite Avengers material yet, Tony will be consulting. For now, in return for a favor, Stark and Rhodey are awarded medals for their bravery, forcing Senator Stern to publicly hail them as heroes. Oh, and Agent Coulson? He finds a certain hammer somewhere. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed having this full Iron Man 2 recap. I am reviewing the full series of Marvel Cinematic Universe on this channel. Stay tuned by subscribing to the channel to see the next review, and I'll see you next time.